There are several aspects of fat loss that are highly frustrating. Would you agree? Of course you would. But none is probably more frustrating than when you are actually seeing the fruits of your labor, in the sense that when you look in the mirror, you look a little leaner. When you put on your jeans, they fit a lot looser. But then you step on the scale and nothing has changed. I think that is probably one of the most frustrating, especially for women, aspects of fat loss, is not seeing that number, that definitive number, change. Now, it's usually at this point when we're frustrated and we're not seeing the scale weight move that we start to question whether or not we're doing the right thing. We start to question whether or not this is worth it. But I want you to take a moment and consider something that probably you've never considered before, which is the WHOOSH phenomenon. Now, it's been a while since I've spoken about this, and so many of our OGs around here, they might remember exactly how the WHOOSH phenomenon goes. But for those of you who are new, this is really, really important, because this one thing could be a complete game changer. It could be the difference between you actually getting to your result or you turning your back on the process when you should be just sticking it out. So here's how it goes. We're going to do a little Mr. Wizard here for those of you who are maybe around my age and remember that from Nickelodeon. So here I have a glass of water, and in it I have a sponge. Now, the glass of water represents your body, and your body is filled with water. But inside your body, this sponge is like your fat cell. So now think about this for a moment. You have this sponge and it's filled with water. So all of your fat cells are actually filled with water. Now, what happens is, and I'm going to try not to make a mess here, is if this fat cell, by process of you eating better, changing your lifestyle habits, doing all the things that you're supposed to do, all of a sudden gets squeezed and is now smaller, what happens to the water? Well, the water comes out of the cell, but it's still inside your body. And what happens with a lot of people is that when they are initially noticing the changes in their shape, but not in their body weight, it's because the fat cell shrunk, it squeezed out all the water that was in it, but the water hasn't left your body. So you basically are, in essence, retaining water. And the reason why you're not seeing the weight loss is just simply because of that. Your body is still containing all the water that was in those fat cells, even though the fat cell is now smaller. So what's the resolution? Well, there is, in fact, nothing that we know you can do to get that water to just simply leave. But what we do know is that as long as you continue on with the process, you will experience what's called the WHOOSH phenomenon. And the reason why it's called the WHOOSH phenomenon is simply this. You notice the change in your body. You step on the scale. Nothing's changing. Nothing's changing. Nothing's changing. Nothing's changing. And then suddenly one day you get on and whoosh, the scale drops significantly. And all of a sudden, the weight on the scale matches up with what you've been noticing in the mirror, or what you've been noticing in your clothes, or what the people around you have been saying when they look at you and say, "Oh, wow, Debbie, I can't believe you look like you've lost so much weight." You're like, "Oh, yeah, well, I really haven't lost any," but it's visible. So what happens is within this whoosh phenomenon, the water finally just whooshes out of your body. How or why, we don't know. But it's different for everybody. You know, to some extent, you do experience this whoosh phenomenon maybe early on in your journey as well. Meaning you decide that, hey, I'm going to make this shift from eating the way that I've been eating, which is maybe a lot of refined carbohydrates, lots of sugars, and so your body is holding on to a lot of glycogen, right? So that's stored sugar inside your body. And every gram of stored sugar, glycogen, in your body holds on to 3 grams of water. So basically what happens is, think of it this way. If you have 5 grams of glycogen, right? You have a lot more than that, but let's just say you have 5 grams stored. That means there's 15 grams of water attached to that. So oftentimes when people drop their carbs initially or early in their nutrition plan, what happens is, well, with less glycogen, the body is holding on to less water. So all of a sudden we have this major drop in body weight, whereas that drop in body weight was mainly water. But the same thing could happen again, as I already described with the WHOOSH phenomenon, where you're past that point where you've alleviated all the excess water that you've been holding on to because of the abundance of carbohydrates you've been consuming. And now you're in your real fat loss plan where everything you're losing is body fat, but yet, again, the scale isn't moving. And all it takes is for that one day for your body to decide, for whatever reason, that I no longer need to retain this water. And once it goes, so does the scale. So for those of you who might be at that point right now where you're concerned, or maybe you've seen the scale weight go up, which is not uncommon as well, which comes with fluctuations in your body water, which could also be the result of your sodium intake, having too much caffeine. It could be that you're eating more carbs than you normally do, or maybe it's the type of carbs that you eat that cause you to retain water. So any number of these things could be the reason why. But what's important is that you stay with the plan, because when you trust the process, ultimately, at some point, water levels are going to level out, and so will your scale weight. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. And hey, if you have not yet signed up for the free workshop that Corey, Beth, and I, the free masterclass, I should say, that we are doing tomorrow night, go ahead in the Fitness and Nutrition group, find that event, and you are invited. So just go ahead and click on the link. Make sure you get signed up, because what we deliver in tomorrow night's masterclass is not going to be posted in any groups. And the only way to get the replay, if you can't make the live training, is going to be registered. So make sure you do that. All right, guys, we'll catch you tomorrow.